Welcome to yet another video of our ReSpawn workshop. In the previous videos, we have seen how good graphics can make a game stand out. They are the need of today's games like Hollow Knight from Team Cherry or Pinstripe from Atmos Games. But don't you think it is very hard to make? Well, I hope most of you agree with me. But don't worry, there is an alternative which is easier to make and looks stunning. Pixel art. I know most of you have come across with these but not know it, because this art style is used in almost all of your beloved childhood games like Mario or Sonic or Contra or whatever this is. Okay, so starting this video by the question, what is pixel art and why you should use it in your first game? Let me show you why. So back in the days, the computers were not powerful enough to render high resolution graphics. As a result, the artwork we get is very pixelated, which today has become an art style which is becoming popular day by day among indie game developers. For today's generation who grew up in the era of GTA and Assassin's Creed, know that we can render out fully three-dimensional environments that look so realistic that it can be hard to tell the difference between real life and those renders, most of the time at least. And yet with all these improvements, many people who included low resolution restrictions of those early days and their work looks stunning and just the way which might not be possible with those high resolution renders of today's worlds. But why is that so? Could it be a nostalgic vibe, or a cost-cutting method, or could actually be an artistic art style choice? Why use pixel art? Well, it can be more practical. It's relatively simple to get the hang of pixel art and is really understandable, and those who don't have or are not as confident in their art skills or who don't have an artist to do all the work, pixel art is the best to get the job done. It's like if you can draw in MS Paint, which I hope most of you can easily figure out what pixel art is. It's very easy to make, as stated by some popular developers. Hyper Light Drifter, a game, was originally supposed to be a high resolution game but was downscaled to pixelated art style because, according to Alex Preston, the lead developer of the game, stated it was too much time consuming for such a small team. Or Thomas Vandenberg, the co-developer of the Kingdom series, said he used pixel art because he wanted an art style with the shortest possible path between sketch, production and in-game engine. Not only on the developer side but also on the consumer end, pixel art games are easier to run as the small scale files don't need any powerful hardware to run it. Like when you try to play God of War with ultra realistic graphics, I'm sure your PC will blow up. Still, in pixel art it varies from games to games, but both developers and consumers get benefited by this art style. Now let's talk about the aesthetic of the pixel art. The aesthetic of the pixel art can itself draw players' attention. The recent spike in games using pixel art can be seen as a reaction to ultra-realistic renders that are dominating the gaming industry. Obviously, the realistic renders that are out there, which takes a lot of time and effort to get the things right, which still looks amazing but also offers a higher chance of errors, which, as the time goes on, even the minor faults of those which look stunning now slowly become more and more obvious as the technology improves. And games will improve as the technology grows to such an extent that titles with only 2 years of gap show massive change in their quality that we can show in the Resident Evil. On the other hand, low resolution naturally hides a lot of errors being low resolution, and shortcomings will go unnoticeable. Pixel art is an art form that relies on stylization. While newer technologies may give a lot of options to pixel art, it does not change the core concept of pixel art, which helps this art style games to maintain their design over time. Even the games from 90s or 2000s have pixel art that looks good till today, and it's very hard to distinguish between the games of today's world and of those times. Pixel art gives an impressionist feel, as stated by the developer Thomas van den Berg, because of its restrictions of limited pixels. Its strength lies in giving people an impression of the scene by adding just the right amount of elements in a scene so that our mind fill in the blanks. It's like we don't need to see every branch or leaf in a tree to know that we are in a forest. By leaving people's mind to interpret the sequence of colored pixels, pixel art communicates with the player naturally. Sometimes what one thinks is a cute little boy can be seen as a dark character by other players like Shovel Knight. What are your thoughts? Does this character looks like a cute little soldier or a dark knight? Let me know down in the comments below. Another way pixel art is more appealing that when artists want to show real life art style but in pixel art, they need to focus on other core aspects like its expression, environments, shape and shadow, like in Owlboy and Iconoclasts, where they use poses for different moods like scared, happy, shock, etc. Believe it or not, there is a nostalgia behind artists using pixel art, because we all grew in the time of breaking pixelated blocks with our heads in Mario or beating pixelated players to proceed to next levels. The main essence of pixel art is that it's the best way to get really sharp and clean looking results faster. Artists are forced to simplify and abstract things, which is the biggest advantage of this technique. Learning higher resolution pixel art is a tougher task, but the result looks out stunning. Now you might be thinking, what makes pixel art different from other art style? Well, in pixel art, we generally define the idea that you put attention to each and every individual pixel, unlike normal art styles which focuses on overall shape and lines and whatnot. Enough talking about pixel art. Now let's jump on to Photoshop and create some pixel art. Now let's first talk about your canvas size, how big your Photoshop document be. Well, it clearly depends upon you and your game. Like the game Celeste might use less amount of pixels, say 16 by 16, or Owlboy might actually use 32 by 32 pixels. It's really depend upon how much detailed art you want. But make sure your document is square, which helps you allow to do a lot of different actions like walking, jumping, attacking, etc. Let's go for 32/32 for now, and don't change any of the settings below. Alright. Now before drawing, let's change some settings to draw pixel art. First, go to Edit, Preferences, General, and change image interpolation from bicubic automation to nearest neighbors. I will not go into details, but bicubic automations try to smooth out the scaling process, whereas nearest neighbors try to preserve sharp edges, which we want in our pixel art. After that, go to the elliptical marquee tool and draw a shape. The selection looks pixelated, but if you try to fill it with colors, nope, this is not we wanted. So to remove that, turn off anti-aliasing. What anti-aliasing does is it removes jagged edges by adding subtle color changes around the lines, tricking the human eye into thinking that lines are not jagged. The slight changes in color around the edges of an image helps the line blend around the curves, which gives impression that the line is true. But we don't want anti-aliasing in our pixel art. So similarly, we are gonna turn off anti-aliasing in lasso tools and paint bucket tools, if you have not already. There is one more tool to change, and that is the shape tool. Go to the ellipse tool and make sure the method is pixels instead of shape or path. What this will allow us to do is directly draw pixelated shapes. Make sure anti-alias is turned off as well. Looks like we are ready to go. Now for a character, it's often advisable to have a background to get the feel of the player environment. So for my character, I'm choosing a dungeon theme. Yeah, this looks good, so let me take it into the Photoshop. So as you can see, our canvas is 32 by 32 pixels. That's why the image is looking large, very large. So let me rescale it down to our canvas, and what I will do is blur it, which gives a subtle gradient of the background. So select the layer, then go to the filters, blur and Gaussian blur. Set the radius accordingly till your background looks blurry enough. Now make a new layer to put the colors in. So I grab my brush, but wait, this is horrible. We don't want this. Instead, we need to use the pencil tool. Right click the brush tool and select pencil tool. Adjust its radius by left and right square brackets. Let's put to 1 pixel, and now it's working. This is the style we want. This will make our art style look good. It is also important to have a reference of what you want to make. What I suggest is draw the least you can on a paper and then import it to Photoshop or keep it somewhere as a reference. So here is my reference. I have made a soldier knight. Let me keep it here. So in the new layer created, go to the marquee tool and select a pixel. Oh, by the way, there is a pixel grid that you can turn on from View, Show, Pixel Grid if it is not turned on, which helps you knowing of every pixel while working on them. So select the corner pixel and fill the pixel by the color you want to use in your art by the color panel on the right side. For my art, let's take a metallic grey color for the soldier knight. We can change the colors later, don't worry, but try to be perfect as possible. For his boots, let's take the dark brown color. For his sword, for the sword handle red color, and for the blade sky blue will be perfect, I guess. Don't forget to rename your slides like I did. Let me just rename them quickly. Make sure both background and swatches layer are locked, and then create a new layer on top. This is the layer in which we are working. First, we try to make the basic outline. You can work with black, but I will suggest to use the color directly to make a silhouette of your character. First, use the shape tool to make the basic shapes of your character. Take references from your images and try to tweak the shapes with the pencil tool. In my case, to draw the helmet, I have used elliptical marquee tool to give a circle shape. It will look like a massive task, but it's a piece of cake once you get the hang of it. So once I finished drawing the helmet, I will go on to the face and its rest of its body. Just use the basic colors for now and don't do any shading for now. After that, I changed the position of background to make the player stand out from the background and did minor tweaks to the color of the character. Then I moved forward to draw the shield of your character. For that, I used the elliptical marquee tool and tried to give it a shape for the shield and a darker color also. And for the hand holding the shield, a 3 pixel line will do the trick. And that is what make pixel art different from other art styles, obviously in a better way. Then I moved to make his other hand and the sword. Just the basic shapes, but the result comes out pretty good in my opinion. When you are done making the basic character, zoom out till the pixel grid vanishes and try to look at the character. If the player looks like a player even from a distance, then pat on your back. You have done a great job. Now let's move ahead to the shading part. For the highlights, make a new layer and mask it by pressing Alt between the layers. What this does is that it will only color where the player is. Name all your layers accordingly and let's start highlighting. For shading, the trick is imagine a point in the canvas from where the light is coming. Like imagine the point as the sun and fix that point throughout the canvas and try to imagine where the bright and dark spots will be present. Once you've done that, pick the color from the eyedropper tool or holding down Alt key while having the pencil tool, and then select the lower saturation color and apply the color on the bright spots. Don't afraid to color anywhere you like and then check. That's how you learn. Also, I just realized that I forgot to draw the boots of the character, so let's do that now and we will continue shading. Once you've done highlighting, let's do the low lighting or the shadows. Create another new layer, make sure it's too masked out to the main layer. By referencing that light point, try to draw where you feel the shadows would appear. Give some time, or you can take some reference from the other pixel art to learn about the shading. There are a lot of references out there like Pixel Art Reddit, where you can find pixel art from a beginner level to a ultimate pro level. Just don't give up and leave your art midway, which most of the artists do for the first time, which becomes their habit. Always try to complete your artwork at least until you are satisfied with it. I know my first art was also not that good, but I completed it and that's what made me grow as an artist. So after that I just did some minor changes here and there. Now for outlining your character, make a new layer and try to outline the player with just one pixel pencil and try not to paint on corners. Also try not make the outline thicker than 1 pixel. Please note that it's just not necessary to paint at every border pixel. It's okay to leave some pixel if that does not matches with your art style. Now as a personal preference, I normally avoid to outline my character because I feel the character looks best at its own. But it is a complete personal preference and many art looks good with and also without outline. So try to experiment and see what art style matches with your character. And this is our final product. Looks good in my opinion, and I would love to hear from you guys. How do you like this character? Let me know in the comments down below. And for the last part, that is exporting the image. First hide the background and swatches, and for my case the outlining too. Remember, it's a complete preference. And then we hit file, export, quick export as PNG, and save it in your PC to use it in your game. Cool, right? Alright, that's all for the video. But remember, the core concept to become good at any art style is same, and that is keep drawing, because you won't get any good without enough practice. Consistency is the key. It's okay to break your consistency a little while learning, but if you're trying to make a decent product or something you want to make sure you're consistent with, never forget that you can make a visually good game with just good visual effects and a consistent visual style. For the most part, it's not about the talent, it's about the willingness to learn. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, please like and share the video to your friends so that they can also learn how easy pixel art is. And we will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.